I was holding a tray. Not even because I had to, I just wanted to make sure the canapés came out right. They were my design, my recipe. I'm walking toward the balcony when I hear her, Judith, laughing that brittle country club laugh and saying to her friend, "Oh her. She's just the help." Right in front of me. I froze mid-step. Her words hit harder than I expected. But before I could say anything, the waiter standing beside me stepped forward, raised an eyebrow and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Actually, she owns the venue." You could hear a pin drop. Judith's champagne glass paused halfway to her lips. Her friend's eyes went wide. The surrounding conversations died like someone had cut the power to a speaker. I stood there, tray still in hand, watching the color drain from Judith's face. Then I smiled. Small. Come. Because this moment? I'd been building toward it for 5 years. Every insult. Every dismissive comment. Every time she made me feel small in front of Trent's family. It all led here. And now she finally knew exactly who I was. My name's Tessa. And I've been counted out my entire life. I didn't grow up with money. I grew up watching my mom take 2 buses to work and come home too tired to eat dinner. She cleaned houses in neighborhoods where people wouldn't make eye contact with her. She smiled through it. Came home and told me, "Work twice as hard, baby. That's how you win." So no, I wasn't raised to believe I belonged in ballrooms like this. But I learned early, you don't need to raise your voice to own a room. I met Trent at a real estate mixer 5 years ago. Polished, clean-cut, old money. Everything his mother wanted him to marry. Except I wasn't. From the second we met, Judith made sure I knew exactly where I stood. Or thought I stood. That first dinner, she smiled and told me, "It's refreshing that you don't try to impress anyone." She meant I wasn't good enough. I didn't react. I just made note. Every insult went in a ledger she didn't know I was keeping. Because my mom taught me something else too. Patience isn't weakness. It's strategy. I let her test me because I already knew I'd win. The whole relationship was one long audition for her approval. She would say things like, "You really hold your own in conversation," like I was a kid mimicking adults. Or, "Trent's last girlfriend went to Yale. But education isn't everything, is it?" I just nod. Smile softly. He thought I was timid. That I couldn't keep up. I realized early. Judith didn't hate me. She hated what I represented. That her son might actually marry someone without a legacy surname or a trust fund. But I didn't fight her. Not out loud. I just let her believe I was quiet. That was her first mistake. Because while she was busy dismissing me at dinner parties, I was closing deals. Building something real. Something she'd never see coming. I wasn't trying to prove myself to her anymore. I was just waiting for the right moment to let her prove herself wrong. And that moment was coming fast. I let her think I had no power. She saw my business, a boutique event venue, and called it cute. Like a glorified Airbnb, she said, wrinkling her nose. I didn't flinch. I let her mock it. She had no idea I'd just closed on a second property. Or that I was turning down investors who wanted in. My venues weren't just pretty spaces. They were historic buildings I restored myself. I knew every beam, every floorboard, every permit by heart. I'd learned the business from the ground up. Literally. I started as an assistant to a wedding planner, then moved into property management, then took a risk and bought my first building with a small business loan. That first venue? Paid off in 3 years. The second? Broke even in 18 months. But Judith didn't ask about any of that. She just saw a girl from nowhere, playing dress-up in a world she didn't belong in. You don't need to scream your credentials to someone who isn't listening. You just wait until the silence is loud enough to humiliate them. Trent didn't see it. Or maybe he didn't want to. Trent is good. Truly. But when it came to Judith, he wore blinders. He chalked her jabs up to old-fashioned manners and misunderstandings. "She just needs time to warm up to you," he'd say. I stopped trying to correct him. He wasn't ready to see her clearly. So I waited. Eventually, people always show you who they are. Judith just needed a microphone. And I knew exactly when to give her one. Trent would defend his mom in private, but in public he stayed quiet. He'd squeeze my hand under the table when she said something cutting, like that was supposed to make it better. It didn't. But I loved him. And I knew he loved me. So I played the long game. Because the thing about people like Judith is they can't help themselves. Give them enough rope and they'll tie the noose themselves. I just had to be patient. She tried to control the engagement party. I let her. We got engaged in the spring. Within days she was texting me spreadsheets. Guest lists, themes, venues. She offered to help, meaning take over. I said sure. Whatever she needed. She didn't know I already had a plan. I just needed her to walk right into it. Judith sent me mood boards, color palettes, seating charts with people I'd never met. She wanted white roses, champagne towers, classical music. Everything tasteful and traditional, and completely void of anything that felt like me. I smiled through every text. That sounds lovely, Judith. Great idea. I trust your judgment. Trent thought I was being gracious, compromising. But I wasn't compromising. I was setting the stage. Because while she was busy planning her perfect party, I was finalizing something she'd never expect. And when the night came, she'd realized too late that she'd been performing on my stage all along. She sent out her own guest list. And cut out my friends. She cut my college roommates. My business mentor. Even my godmother. I found out because she sent a revised list to the planner, who forwarded it to me by accident. I stared at the email, reading line by line. Every name I cared about. Gone. Replaced with people from her circle. People who'd never met me. I felt the anger rise in my chest, but I swallowed it. I didn't argue. I added my people back in. Quietly. She never noticed. Because Judith assumed I wouldn't check. That I'd just show up and smile while she ran the show. But that was her second mistake. I forwarded the full list to the venue coordinator. My venue coordinator, with a note. Use this one. Ignore anything else she sends. My godmother got her invitation. So did my mentor. So did every single person Judith tried to erase. They'd all be there to see what happened next. I suggested a venue. She thought she was choosing it. Judith wanted to use her country club. I told her I'd found a neutral venue with great acoustics and a garden she'd love. She agreed. She didn't even recognize the name. She had no idea it was mine. Silver Birch Hall. The deed was signed under my holding company. That venue was the stage for her downfall. I'd bought it 3 months before Trent proposed. It was a historic mansion on the edge of town with floor-to-ceiling windows and original hardwood floors. It needed work. A lot of it. But I saw the potential. I spent weeks overseeing renovations, choosing fixtures, restoring the garden. When Judith toured it, she walked through like she owned the place. Charming, she said. A bit rustic, but it'll do. I nodded. Inside I was smiling. Because she had no idea she was standing in my house. And soon everyone would know. I bought the venue 3 weeks before the party. Cash offer. No debt. Renovations done. All in my name. Quietly. I didn't even tell Trent. I wanted her moment to be real. To feel the earth shift under her feet. Trent knew I owned venues. He'd visited the first one plenty of times. But he didn't know about Silver Birch yet. I told him I was still in negotiations. That the deal might fall through. It was a small lie. But it was necessary. Because when the truth came out, I needed it to hit everyone at once. Especially Judith. The title transfer went through on a Tuesday. I signed the papers in my lawyer's office, hands steady. The property manager handed me the keys with a grin. Congratulations, Ms. Tessa. She's all yours. I held those keys in my hand and thought about my mom. About every bus ride. Every late shift. Every sacrifice. This wasn't just a building. It was proof. And Judith was about to see it. I let her plan the entire event. Down to the champagne labels. She mocked my ideas. Said gold accents were low class. Said soft lighting made everyone look tired. I let her make every single decision. Because nothing tastes better than being humiliated at a party you thought you planned. She sent me fabric swatches. Wine pairings. Even suggested I wear a specific shade of blue. Something understated. I agreed to all of it. She thought I was grateful for her guidance. Really, I was watching her dig her own grave. Every choice she made, every detail she controlled, would be attached to her name when the night fell apart. Or rather, when the night revealed the truth. My staff knew the plan. The caterers knew. The coordinator knew. Judith didn't. And when she finally figured it out, it would be too late to backtrack. She'd already sent the invitations. Already bragged to her friends about her event. The trap was set. I stacked the guest list with people she'd underestimate. She didn't recognize my mentor. A woman who now sits on the state board. She thought my old boss was just a contractor. And she had no clue that Councilwoman Richards, yes, that Richards, was attending as my guest. She thought she was inviting help. She invited witnesses. My mentor, Dr. Calloway, RSVP'd immediately. She'd been the one who told me to take the risk on my first property. You've got the vision, Tessa. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. She'd be standing right there when Judith said the words. Councilwoman Richards came because I'd restored a building in her district last year. She called me a community treasure at the ribbon cutting. Judith had no idea. She saw names on a list and assumed they were nobodies. But they were all somebodies. And they all knew exactly who I was. The stage was set. The audience was ready. Now I just had to let Judith perform. I made sure everyone saw me. But not as me. I wore a simple gray dress. No designer labels. Hair tied back. Minimal makeup. I looked like I worked there. That was the point. She needed to say it. Out loud. To the wrong person. Trent raised an eyebrow when he saw me getting ready. You sure about that dress? He asked gently. I kissed his cheek. Trust me. He didn't push. When I arrived at Silver Birch, I slipped in through the side entrance. I checked the catering setup, confirmed the music cues, adjusted a centerpiece. I wanted to blend in. I wanted Judith to see me moving through the space like staff. Because the more invisible I looked, the louder her mistake would be. Guests started arriving. Judith stood at the entrance in a silk gown, greeting everyone like the queen of the evening. She didn't even glance my way. Perfect. I picked up a tray of canapés, my own recipe, and started walking through the crowd. Waiting. She's just the help. It was by the champagne tower. Judith leaned in toward a woman with a red clutch. I heard her say, voice syrupy smooth. Oh, her. She's just the help. She said it loud enough. Confident. That's when the waiter, bless him, turned, looked her dead in the eye and said, actually, she owns the venue. Her eyes flicked to mine. I smiled. That's the moment she knew. The woman with the red clutch gasped softly. Another guest turned, curious. Judith's mouth opened, then closed. She tried to laugh it off. Oh, what? That's. But the waiter didn't back down. Yes, ma'am. This is Silver Birch Hall. Miss Tessa's property. I stepped forward, setting the tray down on a nearby table. Judith, I said calmly. Is everything okay? Her face went from pale to flushed in seconds. She stammered, looked around, saw people watching, and realized she'd just insulted the host. At her own son's engagement party. The room went quiet. Then it went cold. People heard. You could feel the shift. A soft gasp. One guest choked on their sip. I walked right past her, calm, silent, and greeted Councilwoman Richards with a kiss on the cheek. Judith turned red. Then pale. Then nothing. Tessa. Councilwoman Richards beamed. This place is stunning. You've outdone yourself. Thank you, I said warmly. It means a lot coming from you. We chatted briefly. Loud enough for others to hear. About the restoration. About my upcoming project. About the speech I'd be giving at the Chamber of Commerce next month. I felt Judith's eyes burning into my back. But I didn't turn around. I just kept talking. Kept smiling. Let her sit in the realization. Let her feel what I'd felt for 5 years. Small. Dismissed. Invisible. Except now, everyone was watching her shrink. And I didn't have to say a word. She tried to recover. But no one was playing along. She fake laughed. Oh, you know how I joke. No one laughed back. She looked around. Realized eyes were on her, but not the kind she liked. And just then my former professor came over and hugged me. Still the smartest student I ever taught, she said. Judith's jaw twitched. Professor Marin had flown in from Boston. She taught my business strategy course in college and wrote one of my recommendation letters for my first loan. I'm so proud of you, Tessa, she said, squeezing my hand. Judith stood a few feet away, clutching her champagne glass like a lifeline. He tried to interject. Well, Trent has always been so supportive. But Professor Marin cut her off without even looking at her. Tessa did this on her own. That's what makes it so impressive. Judith's smile cracked. She excused herself. I watched her walk toward the restroom, shoulders stiff. Every conversation she overheard undid her image. She's building a second location. She's speaking at the Chamber of Commerce next month. She's brilliant with historic properties. Judith heard every word. and every word was about me. She stood near the bar pretending to check her phone. But I saw her listening. A developer I'd worked with last year was talking to Trent's uncle. Tessa's got an eye for value. She turned that old church on Maple into something incredible. Sold out events every weekend. Trent's uncle nodded, impressed. I had no idea she was so accomplished. Judith's hand tightened around her glass. Another group nearby, friends of mine from the planning commission, were laughing about a project we'd collaborated on. She saved that whole block from demolition. The mayor wanted to give her a key to the city. Judith's face was stone, but her eyes, panic, because the narrative she'd built, the one where I was beneath her son, was crumbling, and she couldn't stop it. Trent finally put it together. He pulled me aside, eyes wide. You own this place? I nodded. Why didn't you tell me? I smiled. Because I needed you to hear it from her first. He stared at me, processing. Then understanding hit. She called you the help. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. He exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I said softly. But I should have. You couldn't have stopped her, Trent. She needed to do this herself. He looked toward the crowd where Judith was standing stiffly near the window. She's going to lose her mind when this gets out. I shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe she'll finally understand who I actually am. He pulled me into a hug. I'm proud of you, he whispered. I closed my eyes. That was all I needed to hear. Rumors started swirling and she knew it. Someone whispered Judith might lose her seat on a board. Another said I was in talks to buy the venue next to her favorite spa. I wasn't, but she didn't know that. Let her panic. She earned it. By the time dessert was served, the gossip had spread. People were talking. Not loudly, but enough. Judith's friend Margaret cornered her near the garden doors. Is it true? She really owns this place. Judith forced a smile. It's complicated. Complicated how? Judith didn't answer. Meanwhile, someone else asked me about my next property. I answered vaguely. Smiled. Let them wonder. Because speculation is more powerful than confirmation. And Judith was drowning in it. She kept glancing at me across the room, trying to read my face. But I gave her nothing. Just calm. Just silence. The kind of silence that screams. She tried to give a speech. And failed. She clinked her glass and tried to toast us. It was awkward. Rambling. She called me Teresa. My name is Tessa. To Teresa, Tessa, and my wonderful son, she began, voice shaking slightly. People shifted uncomfortably. Marriage is about partnership and understanding and knowing your place in. She stopped. Realized what she'd just said. Her face went red. Trent stood up, gently taking the glass from her hand. Thanks, Mom. I've got it from here. He gave a short, gracious toast. People clapped. Judith sat down, staring at her plate. I watched her from across the room. She wouldn't meet my eyes. For the first time all night she looked small. And I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just quiet resolution. She'd done this to herself. She found me alone. And tried to apologize. Her voice was low. Controlled. Well, tonight was unexpected. I looked at her. Thank you for coming. And walked away. She reached out, almost touching my arm. Tessa, wait. I stopped. Turned. Yes. She hesitated. I didn't realize. I didn't know you. Owned the venue? I finished. She nodded. I smiled softly. You didn't ask. Her mouth opened. Closed. I could see her struggling. Wanting to say something that would fix it. But there was nothing to fix. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Enjoy the rest of the evening, Judith, I said. And I walked back into the crowd. Leaving her standing there. Alone. She left alone. No one noticed. By the time the party ended, Judith was standing alone by the entrance. Everyone else was laughing, hugging me, asking for my card. Even Trent stood beside me. She didn't get a goodbye. Just silence. I saw her slip out the front door, purse clutched tightly. No one turned. No one called after her. She'd spent the whole night trying to be the center of attention. And she left completely invisible. The irony wasn't lost on me. Trent squeezed my hand. You okay? I nodded. Yeah. I really am. He kissed my temple. I love you. And I'm sorry it took me this long to really see what she was doing. I leaned into him. You see it now. That's what matters. We stayed until the last guest left. And when the venue was finally empty, I stood in the center of the ballroom. My ballroom. And exhaled. A week later, I was invited to the board she used to chair. She found out from a neighbor. I didn't post it. Didn't announce it. She just saw my name on the official letterhead. She used to sit on that board. Now I do. The call came on a Tuesday. Miss Tessa? This is the Heritage Preservation Board. We'd love to have you join us. I accepted. The board oversaw historic property restoration across the county. Judith had chaired it for 6 years. Until last month when she quietly stepped down. No one told me why. But I had a feeling. When the announcement went out, my phone buzzed with congratulations. Trent's cousin texted, "Did you know Judith used to be on that board?" I typed back, "I heard." I didn't add anything else. Didn't need to. The reversal spoke for itself. The gala invitation arrived. And she wasn't on it. I was the keynote speaker. The invitation was embossed, formal. Judith's name wasn't anywhere. 3 years ago she ran that gala. Now she couldn't even get in the room. The annual Heritage Gala was the event of the season. Black tie. Exclusive. Influential. I'd been invited to speak about adaptive reuse and small business development. When I opened the invitation, I felt a flicker of something. Not pride. Not revenge. Just completion. I called Trent. "Did your mom get an invite to the gala?" Silence. "I don't think so. She didn't mention it." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. "Okay. Are you going to?" "I'm just going to do my speech, Trent. That's all." He exhaled. "I love you. I love you too." I hung up and looked at the invitation again. 3 years ago, Judith had stood on that stage. Now it was my turn. He called Trent. Begged for sympathy. "She's making me look bad," she said. And for the first time, Trent said, "No, Mom. You did that to yourself." I wasn't there for the call. But Trent told me about it later. Judith had been crying. Said people were talking. Said I was turning everyone against her. Trent listened. Then said calmly, "Mom, you called her the help at her own venue. In front of 50 people. She didn't make you look bad. You did." Judith went quiet. "I didn't know." "You didn't ask," he said. "You never asked about her business. Her accomplishments. You just assumed." Another silence. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "Don't tell me," Trent replied. "Tell her." He hung up. I sat beside him on the couch. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah. I think I finally am." I never raised my voice. I never had to. I didn't scream. I didn't sabotage. I didn't burn anything down. I just waited. And when the moment came, I let her speak. She buried herself. And I smiled. Because I know exactly who I am now. And no one, not even her, can rewrite that. Let people underestimate you. That's where the power is. I'm standing in Silver Birch Hall again tonight. Alone this time. The lights are dim. The chairs are stacked. But I can still hear the echoes of that night. Judith's voice. The waiter's correction. The silence that followed. I run my hand along the restored oak banister. This building survived 100 years of neglect. I brought it back to life. Just like I brought myself back. From the girl on the bus. To the woman who owns the room. Trent and I are getting married here next spring. Small ceremony. Just the people who matter. Judith will be invited. Because I'm not cruel. But she'll sit in the back. And she'll watch me walk down an aisle in a venue I own. In a life I built. And maybe, just maybe she'll finally understand. You can't diminish what you refuse to see. But eventually the truth finds the light. And when it does, it's blinding.